She said she was 17. I don't remember when I wrote this poem, so I just kind of guessed when I wrote it. I wrote a couple poems in Santa Cruz, um, and so when I was living at that house, I was working at HFC and then a bunch of other jobs. I think at that time or some other time, I helped a lot of insurance agencies start up. Again, my folks being in insurance, I knew how to do that. The licensing in the background with the office as well as actually selling. Worked at a Honda dealership for a week. What else did I do? A bunch of weird stuff. But when I lived in that house, a bunch of rowdy guys, my military bro and then some other ones. And so we were just drinking, partying. At that point, I kind of smoked, but alcohol, I guess, was my drug of choice. And so just a bunch of crazy stories. We had a band, and so some of those guys were musicians or friends of musicians, and we get to people together with other people. We had one guy had a squeeze box. I forgot what it's called. It's like a No, it's like a accordion, but smaller one, and it only has a couple buttons. It's like when you see a cartoon of like some old timey like guy like dancing and doing that. It was one of those. Then I was on rhythm guitar. We had another guy on lead guitar, and we had I think a banjo. And I was starting to become a decent rhythm guitarist. Some guy said that like I was the best he played with. And yeah, and so we'd come out with a couple little songs. So a couple of these poems, the first ones I was writing were little songs with that in mind, that we have like a little band. And when you're young, I guess, I'm thinking I'm going to be a writer, but also I'm going to be a musician. And you have just potential. You're in your early 20s and you can do whatever you want. You know, your life is still a blank page until it's not anymore, until you fill it up with stuff. So I guess what it is like what I was telling you, like your scribbles, your life is just a bunch of scribbles of experience, and then you start actually solidifying the lines and drawing the actual picture. Let's try to do one of those real quick. The last one wasn't that good. It's hard to do when people are watching because there's a lot of expectations, and the idea is to freeform. So you want to like just be sitting there, letting your mind wander, and like a subconscious thing will come out. But like right now, my attention is kind of on you, kind of on the video, because when you're doing videos, you have to pay attention, or else you'll just sit there and daydream, and it won't be watchable. So what is in here? This is tough, you guys. Also, I feel like it's a good check of your creative mind. Yeah, let's do a little face. That's all we got. Oh, we got Ish. But it comes out. It always comes out. It has to come out. Because your brain is like a pattern recognition software, right? So like well, you know what I do sometimes when I can't find anything? I just start solidifying lines just to solidify them. And then you're like, alright, well, whatever it is, it is. A little bit, maybe. A face of a man with a shoe for a body. It's something. And so that's kind of like similar to how if you do a computer program that recognizes patterns in pictures, it makes the pictures all weird and it'll put faces everywhere like there's a pattern or something, which is also a lot like when you take mushrooms or a psychedelic and then you look at someone's face and you see like, this has happened many times with me, where you look at someone's face and you see an eye like right here, eyes right here, is your brain seems to be doing the same thing that those computer programs do. And whatever pattern recognition is hardwired into us, which obviously facial features is one of the first ones. Babies recognize facial features at an early age. You start putting facial features into patterns, which is just like an over-processing of patterns probably. That's interesting. I think psychedelics are a good way to try to check how your brain works, and you're becoming more accepted that way. So, that's enough background story about my creative mind state. She said she was 17. I took her down by the river. She said she was 17. She was already married. Nebraska Halloween. My costume was horrible. I thought she would say no. I wore an igloo made of bubble wrap. A naked Eskimo. I behave like what I am, a true-born native son. Love you in the fall, but I refuse to fall in love. Fireflies, and in her eyes, I thought she would say no. She was Queen Elizabeth. I was just an Eskimo. Her chiffon rustled in the night like a dirty pile of leaves, beyond the berry bushes on that Nebraska Halloween. Mud was pressed into her dress, her thighs as soft as pink, as I popped my bubble wrap on that Nebraska Halloween. Now as a man, I won't repeat all the things she did to me, stained with sand and kisses by the river with my queen. Though it's just in the past, and she is just a memory. I wish I was still an Eskimo by the river with my queen, for although she was married when she said she was 17, love seemed to come easy. Nebraska Halloween. Why Nebraska? My friend moved to Nebraska. My best friend from childhood. That kid who gave me the Shaz Barbaric email. Shaz Barbaric at Yahoo or Hotmail. I think it was Yahoo. Now it's Gmail, but at first it was Yahoo. So that's why I've lost all those emails because I stopped using Yahoo like any civilized person after as soon as Gmail came out. Gmail was such a step beyond the other email addresses. I did like 20 Gmail addresses and never looked back. And Google is losing its culture. What I'm realizing about tech companies, or any companies in general, is culture starts from the top down. So those founders were idealistic, but as they lose their idealism, and I feel like they have a less mature view of the world, then their company suffers. And I think that's what I guess I'm trying to do in my older age, is to apply my idealism and artistic side to the business world, knowing that I can make money, proving that in real estate, knowing I have that acumen that I've kind of neglected all my life, but it is there, hardwired genetically from my grandparents and my parents, but also just in my experiences, just being like young in my parents' office and seeing them interact with clients and developing a philosophy on customer service and sales, which I think if you're going to be in sales, you have to have a sales philosophy. You have to realize, like in the win-win sale versus the cutthroat sale, you could be like the Wolf of Wall Street guy and try to screw people over, or you can be like what I feel like my folks were, where you try to do what's best interest of your client, knowing that that's how you build a sustainable business. So I saw examples of that in an early age. So when I look at these companies, I have an opinion of them. And Google, when they first started, had a really cool culture, things different, and you could see that in their email. Their email is just like so much better than any others. So yeah, that's why I don't have Yahoo email. I have but now I'm starting to get disappointed in Google, as are a lot of people, I think. So my friend, he lived in Nebraska. He moved to Nebraska when he was, I don't remember when, but I think he had family out there. I have to stop and think about his life and all the twists and turns he took. He also wanted to be a writer. Hopefully I can help him out with some of the things he wants to do. He's still writing, still has some great ideas. So that's where Nebraska was in my head. She said she was 17. The kissing, the pop my bubble wrap, probably reference to, of course, like losing your virginity, thighs as soft as pink, a little bit like salacious details. I had lost my virginity when I was 19, so when I was in the Army and starting to do all that grown up stuff, after I escaped the bubble of my household and my conservative upbringing, that's a good story. So there's this girl I liked when I was in 7th grade. So if you think about the loves of your life and when you really fell for someone, just texted her this morning. We came back into each other's life and we've been talking, because I'm doing this whole journey down memory lane. So I'm trying to get in contact with as many of like the old heads as I can from my past. Just correct some of my stories. I realize that sometimes you remember stuff a certain way, but it is here, let me just read you what I texted her this morning. I thought I put it really well. We fit our memories into our narrative sometimes. Slowing down to audit our life turns up a lot of discarded facts. Yeah, that's it. And then I said something about a girl who got pregnant in middle school that we both knew in 6th grade. I knew her in 6th grade. She knew her in 7th grade. This was a cool girl. She said that she always wanted to be cool like her. And then I brought up how, well, this girl had a baby in 7th or 8th grade. She said she doesn't remember that. And I said, yeah, we fit our memories into our narratives. If it's not relevant to your current narrative, sometimes you discard it to your detriment. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go and audit my memories. And this is only the beginning. And then, but this is what this is. This is establishing a framework with these documents and these videos. And then I can add on to that framework later on. And you can't get anything 100% correct. So there's going to be corrections later on. But this whole, I mean, that's what art is. This is a draft. And then you go back, you revise the draft. But as far as drafts go, it's going to be an attempt at a comprehensive one. I said, yeah, I remember her pregnant walking by middle school campus with a grandma, I think, yelling at Dre. I think he was the one that knocked her up. And her dating high schoolers in the 6th grade, just seeing that pattern develop as a kid. And I told her she was as cool as her. And I said, trauma matures kids quickly, which becomes social currency apparently, until the bubble bursts. So these kids, you know, they get the trauma, they grow up quick, all of a sudden they become like the elders of their peer group. But that's a tough wave to ride, experiencing stuff at such a young age. And for her, you know, it gave her a kid. Who knows what happened to her life? I didn't keep in contact. I never was friends with her. She'd pick on me. Which later I learned that, this is a good way to tie it back to the poem. I learned that maybe she liked me. Because this girl, who I met in 7th grade, who was friends with her, because again, like I wasn't a bad kid, I wasn't a poor kid, but those were my friends. This girl the same way. She wanted to be cool like the bad kid, but she wasn't bad. So we were just joking around about how she said that she'll always remember how she tried to go home talking to her mom like this girl talked to her mom. Her mom wasn't having it. And I was like, yeah, no, our parents demanded respect. Our parents were more like authoritarian. And my parents in 7th and 8th grade would always get on my case for going and visit her. She lived right down the street. We're not talking about the pregnant girl, we're talking about her friend that I liked. And so that was my first love, my first crush. Yeah, my first crush was friends with a girl who got pregnant, and she thought she was cool. But me and her came from, you know, more stable families probably, and we didn't have those types of things going on in our home life. And me and her were very similar. Yeah, I find that you usually crush on or start developing relationships with people around your social class. She lived right down the street from me. This is after we moved from Oasis down to that house with the pool where I said that Randall would hang out with me. He knew her. Randall knew her. He had a crush on her. I had a crush on her. Everyone had a crush on her. This girl was really cute. And then we didn't do anything though. I was clueless in high school, and I was always clueless. I guess only when I went to Vieques, only when I went to the Caribbean did I actually develop any swag, any like ability to pursue girls. Every time before then was kind of like, kind of in New York. I did go after a girl in New York, and that's later on in here, and pursued a girl and actually was successful. But usually it was like it would fall into my lap. There's this guy in the Army who I kind of like borrowed his philosophy. He said, I don't look for him, but I don't kick him out of bed. So I just kind of wait for the girl to kind of decide on me, and then I just like kind of go along with it. So I was in the Army, so losing my virginity, I was in the Army, 18 to 20, thinking I should probably get some experience with girls. Now that I'm drinking and smoking, playing guitar and being a man, I'm outside my parents' house. One of the biggest breaks for my parents is when I signed up and I put down no religious preference, because we were getting our dog tags when you're in basic training. You're doing a bunch of stuff that follows you the rest of your military career. One of them is you do your dog tags, which is existential if you think about it. I did. This is, you have dog tags, 2 of them. They go around your neck, the big chain, and then a small chain attached to that big chain. And if you die, you take off the small chain and you put it on the toe. And then the big chain you leave on the neck, and that's to identify you. And it says your name, your social security number, and your religious preference, because now you're dead. And they want to know how to treat the body. And I put down no religious preference because I'm outside my parents' house. I'd grown up conservative Christian. I just started cursing right before I went in the Army, because I saw the South Park movie. And Shut Your Fucking Face, Uncle Fucker was such a hilarious song. And me being a writer and being creative and with my poems and everything, I couldn't have a case for not cursing anymore. I would not do it because I was like, I had this Jerry Seinfeld idea. Like if you could be creative enough to not curse, why? I would tell my friends I don't curse later on, like around senior year of high school. They're like, you curse? Yeah, you do. And I'm like, no, if you notice, I never curse. I could hang around people and I don't have to do that in order to express myself. So it was kind of like an ego thing, like I don't need to, but it was kind of like a parents thing too. I just tried to align myself with my parents' philosophy as much as I can. When I was in the army, I was like, that was my first big break. I was like, should I be a Christian in the army? You know what? I don't really. I was kind of already like walking away from that philosophy. Like, not that I oppose it. It's just I want the bigger set. I want the set into which Christianity fits in. So it's like, so I'd already, before I even read about Islam or other stuff, had a comparative religious idea in my head that like if there's a hell and there's someone going to it, I want to be with that person. I don't want to be with the people who are saved. I want to be the inclusive, everyone with me philosophy. I'm not saying I want to like defend evil or defend, bad people, but what, every single Islamic person is evil, every single Buddhist or Taoist is evil. No, I just want the bigger discussion that involves all of the religious faiths and people who are spiritual. So that was my first decision. I was like, you know what, if I die, I don't want to have that Christian tag. I want no religious preference, which is literally what it is. I don't have a preference, just as sincerity. When people would ask me, what music do you like? I'd be like, I like sincere music. If it's country and it's good, how would I have learned about Arlo Guthrie Jr. or like, what's his name? George Jones or any good country if you, Willie Nelson, if you say, I just don't like all country. So all sincere music usually is good music. All sincere spirituality usually is good spirituality. Was my belief back then. I think it still is. So I was like, I should get more experience with girls. So I tried in the army. Not much luck. What's her name? Clag. Clag was a girl who was in trouble. I was in trouble a lot too. Again, that whole like physical judgment. I was starting to walk away from being so judgmental about people's bodies. So there are cute girls that I liked in the army. Clag was cute, but it's not like she was like the most beautiful girl in our company. But me and her bonded on like we would talk, and I really liked her spirit. I liked her, sincerity again. I guess that's the thing with romance too. Is me and her kind of like vibed on, we're both getting in trouble, we're both fucking up, we're both like working around the company because we're not in school anymore type thing. She got on suicide watch for a little bit, which is just like they think you might harm yourself, so you have to like be in a room where everyone can watch you, which is really, really weird thing to do. So me and her made out a little bit. I had some other little romances, aborted romances. You know what it is? I realized I would also, maybe why I care about emotions and thinking now, I would get overwhelmed with emotions. So I would get liking a girl, but it would be too much for me. And then I would just like basically vomit my emotions onto her. So there's this one girl that I could have probably, if I stayed in the military, probably ended up being married or something. We had like this instant connection. She had a boyfriend at the time. But we'd sneak out and we'd like share cigarettes with each other, and we were just like really quickly within a week or two, just like I lent her a book. I lent her The Handmaid's Tale, which is interesting stuff. Now you see that's in popular culture. And she lent me a book, but it was like a pop culture book. And I lent her The Handmaid's Tale, and she was like, oh, this is like, I lent you just a book, but you used to lend me something literary. And that's kind of like a feather in my cap as far as my reading interest. But if you want to write well, you have to read well. But then it was too many emotions, and she had the boyfriend, and I didn't know what to do. And what you do when you're overwhelmed with emotion is you seek validation by like projecting a lot. And I've learned this in relationships, is that you try to, if you want to have a good relationship, you need to give space for the relationship to develop. You don't want to project your insecurity and your emotions onto the other person. Take a step back. And if you're in doubt, you're insincere, or if you're insecure and stuff, that's why you have a meditation, a practice of like meditating, writing, or whatever. But you center yourself and your values and who you are, and put your feet under you. And then you guys come together as partners. But when you're dependent on them for your validation and esteem and everything, especially at the very beginning, you destroy good things. I have repeatedly. You learn these lessons by doing them. David Grohl had a really good quote where he said, I feel bad for modern musicians because you get out there and there's so much exposure where like you go on YouTube and stuff and automatically people are shitting on you. I'm paraphrasing and doing a terrible job. But it's like, you can't just like be in a garage and suck until you're good. And the same way about romance, you suck until you're good. So yeah, you don't want to go out there and make people uncomfortable, and you don't want to like sexually harass them. But yeah, until probably my mid-20s, late 20s, I sucked at romance. So not much. Oh yeah, so that girl in the army, Clag was the one I made out with because we were both fuck ups. But the girl that I vomited my emotions on, I called her once, and I was like, you're not falling in love with me, so I think we'd have to stop talking to each other. And I'm pretty sure that's how I started the conversation. You're not falling in love with me, so I think we have to stop. Something like that. It was weird. I'm pretty sure she told her friends. Yeah, I mean, what can you do in life but be yourself? And oh, that's something I told this girl when we were reflecting. The girl I lost my virginity to. I told her when we were reflecting on our past this morning. I was like, what did I say? Embarrassment is discord between the past and present. So when you're embarrassed, it's like, oh, I'm not that person. But it's okay. You let it wash over you. You let sadness wash over you. You let joy wash over you, you know? If you stay in joy too much, then that's going to become like indulgence. If you stay in sadness too much, it becomes despondency. Embarrassment too much. So like this whole thing on the internet now, which is popular, cringe and all that stuff. It's like, be embarrassed, but don't indulge in embarrassment. Embarrassment is, you know, a correction. I'm not so much embarrassed now because I know I'm so different than that person there. But I don't want to be too different because that was me. I just know more now. I have more experience. I'm not insecure about love because I've had good love. And that's what I realized. When you're loved by a good woman, that's the biggest source of esteem. I've had good women love me in my life. A couple that I thought about marrying. And once you have that, it's like no one can tell you anything about romance. Like I know who I am and I know the value that I give because I trust those women's opinion and judgment so much more than anyone else. They know me and we've shared something special and it's still there. And these women are still in my life. And one of the things of being able to have a romance and then being able to let that romance transition into a friendship is one of the greatest accomplishments. And this girl, she told me, which we're going to find later on, she was like, our friendship is the proudest thing I have in my life. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, you know what, I kind of agree. It's like, me and her were like thinking about getting married and we're best friends now. And so to be able to do that, it was a hard process. The first couple people you date after that romance are really like the rebounds and you're recontextualizing your relationship not as a romantic one now, but just as friends. But if you transition and you actually do it well, the trust is like, I already know this person so well, first romantically, but now this selfless love where I don't want anything but their happiness and I know they want the same for me. It's like I don't have to think what if because we already tried that. We make better friends. But now that we've taken the romance off the table, that female friendship is like, it's such a deep bond. It's like, it's family. It's almost deeper than family. It's a really cool, so I have a couple people like that in my life where like females that we've taken the romance off the table and then now we just have a very pure, very deep friendship, which is just this platonic love. Some people might doubt that. They might think that you can never take the sex off the table. But once you've tried it and once you've known that like marriage isn't, you know, you're not lifelong partners, it's like once you've tried the option and the option's not there, you have to be, you know. And then also if you're not insecure and you know that you have other options. So I freaked that girl out in the army, stopped talking to her. Probably was a little bit of a reputation as like a weirdo. But just, you know, not what it is that kid who's just a little bit too passionate, you know, just intense. I've got that a lot in life. And that's also why I feel for kids like that. Like intensity isn't a negative. Like everything is a positive and a negative. Every strength can be a weakness, every weakness can be a strength. My intensity is good for the writing. My intensity shouldn't be projected upon others to make them feel uncomfortable though. And that's also why we have these little rules, which is why I love the internet and internet culture. You hear a lot on the internet, respect the person, remember that there's a human being behind the computer screen. And so the same thing with romance. There's a human being behind that object of desire. And your insecurity, your loneliness doesn't give you a right to make them uncomfortable. I think I made her a little uncomfortable. So when I got out of the army, still trying to figure it out, I wrote this poem because I was starting to have a little bit more sexual experience. But the first girl I got with was that girl who was friends with a girl who got pregnant. So she was my middle school romance. She went to a different high school. And then I was still in the army. I was 19. I had freaked that girl out by being too intense, knowing that kind of, you know, need to start breaking the seals. Like you're like, you haven't lost your virginity yet. I didn't go to prom. Stopped going to high school those couple months right before he graduated. Didn't really like buying into like the whole graduation stuff. High school's bullshit. Why am I going to celebrate it? I went to my friend had an apartment by the beach and we partied. I drank for the first time there right before I got in the army. And then I smoked my first cigarette and stuff. And then, so I'm in the army and then my parents are going to a wedding and they say, we're going to a wedding. I was like, all right, I'll come down and I'll watch the house. And so I come down to Southern California from Monterey, which is in 6 hours away, right below San Francisco. And my friends, I was like, party, Thanksgiving weekend, get a keg. And I'm drinking in the Army now, it's like, you broke that seal, and it's like, there's arguments for like, if you let the kids drink when they're young, then they're mature, and our American culture where we wait until college, until people are 18, 19 to go break that seal, we overdo it a little bit. So I was definitely overdoing it. Again, we had in the Army with 30-minute six-pack, where you're drinking a six-pack in 30 minutes. Doesn't sound like much, but a beer every 5 minutes, by the sixth beer, you're puking. Most people puke. And it's not so much the beer, it's the carbonation and the liquid. It's just a lot of liquid. But if you do it and you keep it down, first of all, it's fun to just like watch people drink beer until they puke, back then at least. I'm maturing slowly in my old age. But also, then you start getting this buzz because beer hits you slower than hard liquor. So you do that as a pregame before we go out. So that was our pregame, 30-minute six-pack, and then we go out to the bars and stuff. So we were like, get a keg, dude. And then someone got the keg, came to the house, and again, this is like, I'm walking away from like the Christian stuff, and now I'm like being bad. And this girl came over, and I hadn't seen her since, I think I'd seen her once in between, but not really since middle school. And she was my crush, and everyone knew that I liked her and this and that. And so I lost my virginity to her, and that was that's a weird phrase, losing your virginity. It's like I had it, and then I misplaced it, and she caused me to misplace it. Or she took it from me. She definitely took it from me. She has more experience. Because she was in college, normal track. She went to Riverside, UC Riverside. So she kind of showed me the ropes, as happens a lot in life. We had the party, but I wasn't even on the party. Like the first night, it was a 2-day party, so we had 2 parties because we had a keg, and the whole weekend. The first night we just all hung out, but some dude, like the cool kid from high school, was like hitting on her, and he brought his guitar, and he was a good guitar player, and he wasn't drinking, he was drinking his Gatorade, so it's like everyone's getting fucked up, and he's just talking to the girl that like of my life, flirting with her. I'm like, man, forget this guy. And so the next day I definitely like took her to the back bedroom to talk to her, and then like we didn't come out for like the rest of the day. It was a good time. It was kind of like, I've had a bunch of little moments like that. These moments that just like are picturesque. Like I was like, that was my love. But I couldn't really relate to her. Definitely not when I was in the military, because all these ideas, like I still had like the high school like underground newspaper, this cognitive dissonance going on, and then I have like the whole military command. It feels like the whole U.S. Army coming down my back. I'm called the fuck up on my command. The other soldiers aren't talking to me. They're trying to isolate me from other people. I just like acting way too intense with the girls I like on the base. And then so I hook up with this girl, but we kept in contact for a little bit. I've done this a lot with her in my life, and that's why I'm trying to be like more even-handed now. And we're talking, trying to be even-handed with people in my past, because in my past I think if I talk to people, they see me bouncing all around, and it looks really erratic. And I guess that's what I'm doing here, is I'm trying to tie all of this together. What's been going on? What is this all about? So now I'm in Santa Cruz, a little bit more life experience and a little bit more girl experience. And now I feel I could write about it. And I guess this is my first writing about stuff like that. And I have that band, and how can you write about romance unless you experience it? Starting to experience romance, starting to write about it. That's what this poem's all about.